Carrots are a hard-working staple of the kitchen. Their sweet flavor makes them a favorite vegetable of many. It also makes them a great pairing for pork. We'll make a sweet chutney with carrots, onions, pineapple, and orange marmalade to pour over a spicy roasted pork tenderloin. It's a beautifully colorful dish you'll love. Today on the Seasonal Kitchen. Hi, welcome to the Seasonal Kitchen. I'm Whitney Danhoff. I'm an Extension Agent with the University of Tennessee Extension. Today we're going to make a wonderful late spring, early fall recipe. We are going to make roasted pork tenderloin with a sweet carrot chutney. So we're going to start by making a spicy rub for our pork tenderloin. In our rub we are going to use kosher salt, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of a dried thyme. That will give it a nice savory flavor. We're going to use some onion, 1 teaspoon of either an onion powder or you can use a minced onion as well. And a little bit of garlic powder. We're also going to use a teaspoon of garlic powder. Ground cumin, a little smoky, earthy flavor. And 1 teaspoon of that and 1 teaspoon of ground sage. And then for a little bit of heat, we're going to use just 1/4 teaspoon of a ground red pepper or cayenne pepper. If you like it spicier, you could certainly add more, and if you don't want the spice, you could leave that out. And then a little bit of further heat with 1/2 teaspoon of just fresh ground black pepper. We're going to stir that up and get that all mixed. This is going to go on the outside of our pork tenderloin, and it makes a wonderful flavor, a spicy, herby flavor that will roast and smell delicious in the oven. All right, so we're going to set that aside, and we are going to use pork tenderloins today. Now, at my grocery store, they usually come 2 to a package, and we are going to take our pork tenderloin, and we need to remove the silver skin. This is a tough tendon on the outside, and if we leave that on there, it's going to shrink up our pork tenderloin. So the best way to get this off is to take a very sharp knife, and we're going to poke the end right through, and we're going to hold our pork tenderloin. We're going to angle the knife upward, and we're going to cut and see how that comes up. Then we can pull, and we can just cut that all the way off. All right, and we're going to throw that part away. Here you can see some of it is still remaining, and we want to make sure that we get all of that off. So just work your knife away from you and pulling that silver skin away. All right, now if there is a lot of extra fat on your pork tenderloin, go ahead and cut that off. Got a little bit there, and we're going to turn it over, and we've got just a little bit on our back side here, so we're going to pull that up and just cut that right off. Okay. All right, that looks pretty good. We don't have to get it all off, but we want most of it off. Now, we can take our rub, and we're just going to spoon this over our pork tenderloin, and then just kind of pat it in and turn it and sprinkle a little bit more on the other side. We're going to split this between our 2 pork tenderloins. I love pork tenderloin. It's nice and moist. It is super tender. If you use a pork loin for this, it's a little bit bigger. It will take a little bit longer to roast, but you could certainly use a pork loin for this recipe as well. All right, there's one of them. Now we're going to take our other pork tenderloin, and we're going to use the rest of our rub on it. So sprinkle it on and pat it in with your hand, and sprinkle on the other side. We want to use all of this. It has a wonderful smell to it. You can smell it before it even starts roasting. It's going to smell even more when we put it into the oven. We have our oven preheating at 350 degrees, and so I've already started that. Let's get the rest of our rub. We don't want to waste any of this, so if you have any spots that aren't covered, go ahead and use all of the rest of that. All right, that looks good. They're completely coated, and now we're ready to roast them. So I have a roasting dish, a baking dish here, and I've sprayed it with a little bit of vegetable spray, and I'm just going to place those two in there. I am going to leave some space in between, and that will help it to roast evenly. So we're going to put this in our 350-degree oven, and we're going to bake it for about 45 to 60 minutes. We're going to use a meat thermometer, and when it reaches 145 degrees, we're going to take it out. Then we'll tint it with foil, and we'll let it rest for about 10 minutes before we slice it. While that is roasting, we're going to make a carrot chutney. So I'm going to get my board cleaned up and wash everything, and then we'll come back and we'll make the chutney. Okay, our pork tenderloin is in the oven. Now we're going to start our sweet chutney, and we're going to make a carrot chutney. So I'm going to cut off the ends of my carrot, and I'm going to chop that carrot up. Now a chutney is a mixture of fruit and spices that are cooked down into a syrupy kind of condiment, and this is just delicious over the pork tenderloin. The carrots are really sweet. We're going to add some pineapple to it, and we're going to cook it down with some thyme. So it's going to make a really good topping for our pork tenderloin, and it will match very well with the spicy rub that we put on our pork tenderloin. So just cut your carrot in half, and then hold your fingers back and chop it into small pieces. All right, we are going to use 2 tablespoons of butter, and I have that in my pan here over medium-high heat, and we are going to add our carrots. There's our 1, and here are the other 3 of our carrots already chopped up. And then we're also going to add half of an onion, and this is chopped up as well. That will add some savoriness to our chutney. And then I have half a teaspoon of dried thyme. We put thyme in with the pork, so we want to reinforce that in our chutney. And then about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, so a couple of pinches of salt. And we're going to stir that around. We are going to saute this open for 15 to 20 minutes, just until our carrots start to get tender and our onion turns translucent. Our carrots and onions have been cooking for about 15 to 20 minutes, and they're getting tender. So we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. We have an 8-ounce can of pineapple tidbits, and I'm going to add that with their liquid. And that's the sweet part. A little bit of savory is about a half a teaspoon of chicken base. This is the base that makes chicken stock. And then we're going to add some orange marmalade, and I have about 1/4 cup of orange marmalade here that we're going to add in, and that's going to make that sticky sweet sauce. So stir that around, then we're going to cover it, and we're going to cook it down until the carrots are nice and tender, maybe another 5 to 10 minutes or so with the lid on. And then we'll remove the lid and evaporate any excess moisture in there and make our syrupy sauce, and then we'll pour that over our sliced pork tenderloin. Our pork is out of the oven, rested and sliced with that beautiful carrot chutney over the top. The pork is moist and tender with a little heat from the rub that is balanced with the sweet carrots and pineapple. The chutney can also be used over chicken or other poultry. So pull some carrots from the refrigerator and make them the star of your next meal.